So here we've got something that I would definitely categorize in the Grail category. This is GMT's 3 Days at Gettysburg from the Great Battles of the American Civil War. This is the 2004 third edition of the game, the most recent printing of it, and also the one that's most expensive and hardest to find, as is usually the case with out-of-print titles. If it's the latest version, it's always the hardest to find. Usually you can find earlier versions of this, the first or second edition. You can find those, unpunched copies for much less than what you find this for. This title is usually found somewhere between $100 and $200 typically, with most that I've seen $150 or more. Usually if you're patient and do a little bargain hunting, you can find it for in the $100 range or sometimes even less. I wasn't quite so fortunate on this copy. Had I chosen to wait indefinitely before buying it, I probably could have found a copy for less than $100. But, you want what you want when you want it. Nonetheless, I found a copy. I do not have all of the titles in the Great Battles of the American Civil War, and there's really multiple generations of this system. And I believe Gilbert Collins maybe did a series of videos on some of the games in this system, or the different generations of games in this system. If it wasn't him, I feel like I've definitely watched a video on it, but I know he's done some recently, especially in Gettysburg. It kind of originally started with, and you could say the first iteration of this game was Terrible Swift Sword from SPI. It was one of the first big monster games from the, I want to say like 76 or 77 maybe, Richard Berg design. That was eventually reprinted once by TSR after TSR bought SPI, and then eventually evolved into this. And this version of the Great Battles of the American Civil War system is a chit pull system. I don't believe the original Terrible Swift Sword was a chit pull, but eventually that's kind of what it turned into. And so this was the first game, I think. Is this Volume 1? Yeah. It's Volume 1, Great Battles of the American Civil War. Volume 2, I believe, is River of Death, which is the Chickamauga game. I do not have that. Volume 3 was Red Badge of Courage, which I do have, along with Dead of Winter, which was the latest volume, Volume 5. I am missing River of Death, and Gringo, which was the fourth volume, covers the Mexican War. So it's not really Great Battles of the American Civil War in that case, but it nonetheless is part of the system. So this one I had held off on getting, partly because it was expensive, and partly because I already have what I would consider one of the definitive regimental treatments of the Civil War, or of the Battle of Gettysburg, which is here. It's the gamer's last chance for victory in the line of battle system, that's the orders-based system from the gamers that is similar to the old Civil War Brigade series, which you can see I've got there, and in my opinion is one of the finest tactical systems at regimental, or in this case brigade level, Civil War combat. So I didn't feel any urgency to get a copy of Gettysburg. You can see down there's Red Badge of Courage and Dead of Winter, and I've played both of those, just scenarios from them. But I did enjoy the system, and I do like a chit pull system if done properly. So, and the graphics and maps and so forth are really good in the Great Battles of the Civil War system. So it is a good system. I just held off on getting this one because the price wasn't right, and there was not a lot of urgency since I already had fantastic regimental Gettysburg game. But as you can see here, classic Roger McGowan artwork on the cover. Glare is kind of bad, but this was 2004. This was definitely in his what I call the clip art phase, where he assembled images from took pictures from different images and kind of assembled them in a collage style. for the box. It's the deeper. I don't know if it's 3 inches or 2.5 inches, but it's the deeper box because it is a little larger of a monster than some of the other titles. You can come back, which is your typical GMT barrage of information. Nice shot of the map, description there about how great a reprint this is, counter samples, difficulty, etc. And then once open, you know, the nice thing is that they've left a lot of room for counter trays in here, which I typically don't actually use. I use the baggies, and I use even smaller baggies than this to break things down by brigade, division, and so forth. Here's the scenario book for the 3rd edition. And there's a number of different scenarios. You get first day, Hare Ridge, Little Round Top, the full 2nd day, full 3rd day, full battle. So actually fewer scenarios than the Line of Battle Last Chance for Victory has. That's got a ton of scenarios in it where you can really break down the battle into small little bits, which I rather like. Sometimes I just feel like getting a little dose of Gettysburg without getting the whole massive thing. And the scenarios allow you to do a little more historical battle. When you do like a full Battle of Gettysburg scenario, it's hard to make things historical with the way things happened in this battle without having a lot of scripted events. Series rulebook here, and I don't know if this is version 4.5. I don't remember if this has been revised since Dead of Winter came out. I'm sure there's living rules on the interwebs. And these, you know, typical GMT style rules here. Credits, you can see Richard Berg, Mark Simmons did the maps. And not a lot of rules for this. That's the 32 pages, but you know, there's an index, and thankfully an index. You know, some notes and optional rules and stuff. So, you know, 28 pages of rules maybe, so not particularly onerous. My recollection is that combat in this is a bit more onerous than it is in the Line of Battle series, which has really refined it down to a very smooth flowing process. Here's their turn track, along with the disorder table. Anything? Yeah, good. Don't want anything on the back of the turn track. And here's your orders chart, which shows what you can do with your different types of orders. Stacking limitations, fire eligibility, terrain effects chart. I typically tend to like terrain effects charts that have graphics on there, but I suppose there's probably a key on the map. I haven't looked at the maps too closely yet. Here's your order of arrival for the Union for all 3 days, various footnotes. And this is I believe your orders sheets. I want to say AM stands for activation markers. It's been a while since I've played. But eliminated units, orders, and so forth. Same here. The Union sheet. More corps in the Union Army because their corps were smaller. And then here's your single fold-over player aid card that has all of your various tables. Fire table, range effects charts. Let's see, they've still got the old, this is what the title on the previous printings of the game looked like, so even though they've got the newer copyright on here, they still have the old logo on there. And the Confederate order of arrival. Very similar to the Union, but conveniently in gray. One 10-sided die, so that's all that's in there. And the maps, there's 3 maps here, and I'm going to lay these out as best I can. I've got some limited table space here at the moment, but we'll see what we can do. And I almost forgot to do the counter sheets. These are typical GMT quality counter sheets, and I think the graphics are McGowan and Simonich. So you know they're very neat, but maybe a little too colorful. You know, in the leaders here, there's just a lot of information packed onto those counters, and you've got all these different clashing colors, which you know, good for the organization. I think all of your regiments have the different color stripes, which is pretty decent. But again, can be a little dizzying, just the array of colors and information splashed on these. So They're a little bit busier than the Gamer's Last Chance for Victory Line of Battle series counters. Here's all your different regiments. Unfortunately, they didn't do something that, they didn't make any of these different, for like the Zouaves, any units that were Zouave units, for example. Not a lot of Zouave units left by 1863, but still would have been cool. Or for the Iron Brigade, to give them the frock coats and the black hats, which they didn't do. And I don't remember which units, the Iron Brigade, what color they were. Second Corps, Third Corps, here, First Corps. Yep, Iron Brigade's right here, and you can see they didn't give them the hardy hats. They're just typical Union blue guys and keppies, just like everybody else. And then the Confederate counters are brown, as opposed to gray, which I'm fine with. By this point in the war, most of the Confederate troops are going to be wearing butternut, so you're not going to have a lot of gray troops out there, except for the officers probably. So 6 counter sheets, so lots of counters. This is a monster. Lots of markers. And again, here's all your strength point loss counters. So 6 counter sheets, that'll be quite a bit to clip through. Here are the maps. There's only 3 maps. Last Chance for Victory has 4 because it's got more playable space. This narrows it down to just 1 map covering big round top and little round top, and then more up here with town. But very handsome maps. Simnich always does very neat and tidy and clear maps, which I really like. And not garish colors here. Not quite the dizzying array of elevations that the Line of Battle Last Chance for Victory has, which is nice. Makes things just a little easier for doing line of sight and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, very, very pleasing map to play on. And you've got good things like a compass rose laid out there. And they do have somewhere is the key. I think it's on the down here at the bottom. Your map key and your elevation key, which is always nice to have. So still, a large play area. The tables that I have, I've got my other tables in the basement are already occupied. Another Gettysburg game right over there. It's Summer Storm from Clash of Arms. So I couldn't quite lay these out as flat as I wanted, but you can see it's sizable. So there we have a look at GMT's 3 Days of Gettysburg.